Welcome to Ethica America, where we outsource our work to China or wherever. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, very much it's just
Yeah.
China because everything's cheaper to make there. Because why? Why would you want to pay people a decent living wage to make products?
I mean, I know I
That's
don't.
or you can just go to China and make everything there, and then it take 3 months for it to arrive on a boat, and then it sits in the boat for like another 2 months, and then it gets unloaded. It gets shipped to the warehouses to be then distributed out.
Oh, that makes
So,
sense.
so it's just like an extra 6 months of just like
Waiting around for nothing.
yeah. But like
Yeah.
companies are just like, "Oh, whatever." They just have to
Yeah.
do it because everyone does it this way.
Yeah.
And
But once the inventory ends up in their hands, then there's this big old rush to get rid of it.
yeah, but usually all the inventory is gone anyway because they make everything to order. So they'll have
Yeah.
like, all right, so we'll have 200 orders for this stupid shower trim, and then they'll make it all, sell it all because it's now, not available to ship out. So it just
Yeah.
waits, and then finally, and then the process starts all over again.
Very nice. Very nice. Very exciting. Yeah. Nah. I don't know. It's been a weird couple of weeks. Sorry we missed you for that time, guy in Virginia. So
Yeah.
I know you've been anxiously awaiting us. And if you're the FBI just kind of looking into us, I mean, sorry we made you wait.
Yeah.
So
If you're the FBI and you're waiting for us to upload more, just get more FBI bots,
yeah,
and then eventually we'll make money off of it. And then we can
yeah,
quit our jobs and
yeah,
do this every day. Upload
yeah.
every day. Oh my god, that'd be so much content.
That would be a
Every
lot of content. We'd have to have a different business model for that. Yeah,
We would upload
God.
twice a week,
Yeah.
and
But
in between 30-second clips of conversations like these that get edited out.
oh man. At least that bonus material is invaluable when you think about it, though.
I just have like a file that's just clips that got deleted, and it's like 3 hours long at this point.
Yeah, that doesn't really surprise me. Sometimes I ramble. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
But it's just like stuff that I needed to cut because I needed to get like for episodes like these where we record for 2 hours. Some of that content is just gonna get cut because we ramble on. So the episode gets cut to like an hour and 15 minutes, but then we have 45 minutes of just rambling instead. It's still good content, but I just have no idea where to put it. So I just
Yeah,
keep it.
yeah. Keep it locked away in its special little 3-hour file drawer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that I had to buy an external solid state hard drive to hold all these 3 hour long things for
Oh,
because
did
it
you?
was just yeah, because I bought a 2 terabyte solid state external solid state hard drive because my computer was just I just have a ton of stuff on my computer that
Yeah.
I needed to
Oh,
get rid of. Like my solid state hard drive is only like 225 megabytes.
yeah. Yeah.
And then I have a terabyte hard drive for all my other stuff. But the solid state hard drive has like just so much stuff on it already.
Yeah. If you need another one, I have a bunch of old hard drives here somewhere. So
Yeah.
I'm not
It's
saying
a
that
lot
they're solid state, but they're
yeah. I mean, they weren't that expensive, and I was using it for other stuff anyway, but, like also,
yeah.
my Baldur's Gate, it's like 103 gigs, so
Oh
there's
yeah,
that.
that'll take up quite a bit of space, my dude.
Yeah,
Oh man. Oh,
but here we are. So how's
yeah.
Ohio?
Ohio's weird right now. So, I
Is
mean,
it? Because they just had that weird election where they had to
yeah.
vote. So it was at one point, vote yes for issue 1, and then it was like, "No, don't vote yes, vote no now for
And
issue 1
well,
because it's a
and
different
that's
issue."
one you have to think about it too. The first time that they were talking about like, well, if we take a step back, right, in
Mhm.
2022 in December, they passed a law saying that there would be no more special elections
Yeah.
because they just waste taxpayers' money, right? And
Mhm.
then sometime in like March or April or May or something like that, they announced a special election because they realized somebody was trying to get abortion rights on the ballot this year. So but they were trying to get that into the state constitution. So they launched a special election so that way, in order to get it on the state constitution, anything on the state constitution, it had to pass with at least 60% of the vote there, which
Right.
makes it nearly impossible for anything to get on the state constitution.
Yeah.
So,
So Ohio foiled that,
yeah,
luckily.
well, they kind of pissed everybody off with it because they kind of did this sneaky, underhanded shit with it, right? But the
Right.
idea there was to, try to thwart abortion rights because they were a little bit salty about that. Then,
Mhm.
about a month before this election, maybe a month and a half, they got rid of something like 27,000 voters or something like that who hadn't voted in whatever amount of time, and that sort of maintenance, that needs to happen. Nobody's arguing that, but they did it, and then like they did it about a week before um, somebody could re-register to vote, and
Oh.
yeah, and they did it without letting them know that they did it. Which, I mean, I don't. There's no real. Um, I have no idea if those people were Democrats or Republicans or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it was just it, my thought is probably because like the Secretary of State's had like this rolling sort of workforce under him, right?
Mhm.
And my thought is probably that it got lost, just messed up, lost in the wash, so to speak. But I don't know. It makes him look real bad nonetheless. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Remember, a couple episodes ago when we talked about philosophy of law, and we're like, a
Hmm.
law's not a good law unless people actually know about it?
Right.
I mean,
Y-
this kinda just relates to that where it's like, how are we
Oh, I
supposed
could,
to know what to do if things just keep changing and then
right.
no one tells you anything, and then
Right.
it's just too late? It's just bad. It's just bad for government.
Yeah. Well, and I think we're gonna have a lot of similarities between this and the when we went into the what the purpose of a government is,
Yeah.
um, and how we're probably not meeting that goal. But anyhow, so then fast forward, right? Um, and then we had our general election. Kentucky had a general election, and Virginia had a Maryland or a general election.
Mhm.
Um, and in Kentucky's general election, they reelected a Democratic governor. So I don't know why that was making top news, but he got reelected. So that's cool, I guess. Um,
It is.
in Virginia, like their Senate and a bunch of their internal House, they elected a bunch of Democrats, and everybody's all for Democrats, but why are Joe Biden's poll numbers so bad? And it's like, maybe because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's the compromise nobody wanted. Yet nobody's really saying that except for Fox
Yeah.
News, which, yeah. But anyhow, one other thing to note, right? It was either before or right after this general election. Um, a lawsuit popped up in Michigan that's kind of cool. Well, it's not
Oh,
cool
yeah.
at all, but so about a year ago uh they had proposal 3 to vote on, right, which was an
Mhm.
abortion rights thing, and it passed with I think about 57% of the vote or something like that, right? But
Yeah.
right around it was either right before or right after this general election, some pro-life group is up there trying to sue the governor and everybody else because they basically gave abortion a super rights sort of position where I didn't read the whole article, but they're trying to stop it from taking effect and attacking the law, which a lot of sore losers out there I'm noticing.
Yeah. And especially from, like, that pro-life standpoint, it's like, it's not affecting you. You're not having the baby.
Well,
You
maybe they
can
are
have all the
having the
babies you
baby.
want.
Yeah.
Like, do you want them to have the baby? Then give them money to help them raise the baby. Give them
Right.
more free time away from their job to raise the baby, and then everyone will be happy. But, like,
Nobody happily chooses to get an abortion. Like some of these people, they act like when you have an abortion, it's just like, oh, well, I'm pregnant, so time to
yeah,
go down to the abortion clinic again. I haven't seen Charlie in a while. Like it,
right.
I don't know anybody who conscientiously decides things like that.
Or
And
that's their
I,
form of birth control. Like,
yeah,
my form
yeah,
of
it's
birth
like,
control is just winging it, pull out method, and then if that fails, abortion, like, in
right,
that order. It's not
okay.
like birth control, um, and then condoms or plan B, and then, like, I don't know, all the other witch hazel, I don't know. Maybe that's a method too. Who knows? But, like,
Penny royalty is, so is a coat hanger. But
yeah,
yeah, pennyroyal's an herb that, like, known for causing miscarriages pretty quickly, so it's usually given in a tea supplement. There's something to do with copper too, but that might have just been a form of contraception back in the 70s or 80s where they
yeah.
shoved a copper cross up your well, you get the idea.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like, what's going on now with, the, the implant that people can get. Some of it's made of copper.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Huh. That could potentially cause Wilson's disease.
Yeah. I don't know much about it.
Yeah, most people wouldn't have that sort of reaction. So, but Ohio legalized weed.
Yeah, so they legalized abortions and also weed.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves, Aaron. These votes passed.
So in theory, since the votes passed, then the bill passed for abortions to be allowed, right?
Um, yeah, in theory, they're not going to do a recount, but they've decided that they're going to take the law to court to try to stop it from passing, even though, you know, uh,
So they made a law. They're like, okay, where they
well,
they felt
they
they
didn't
they
make the
spent
law.
time,
The law
but
passed. Oh, I see what you're
okay,
saying. Okay,
yeah.
you're
So
talking about their
so
previous law, their heartbeat
yeah,
law.
yeah. So they wrote up a law to see if it would to get it to pass or not. And then
Uh-huh.
they're going like a takey backsies where they're like, no, wait, no, we don't want this law to go through, so we have to rewrite it and then take it to court to make it sure it doesn't pass, even though it just
Well,
passed.
the heartbeat law, that one, they just kind of put it into effect. I don't even remember if there was a vote on that one or not,
Yeah.
but they just kind of put it into effect and said no abortions for any reason in the state of Ohio, and they limited birth control options, right? And nobody
Right.
really cared because it wasn't enforceable, right? But
Yeah.
then Roe versus Wade got overturned. So then that became enforceable all of a sudden. And there
Mhm.
was like this 6-week ban on abortions, which uh, didn't make any sort of exceptions for rape or incest or
Right.
medical or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
So so that was passed. And then some girl from Ohio who was raped by her uncle and had a baby had to
Mhm.
go to Indiana to get, um,
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, an abortion. And, And then, like, a bunch of people started suing the state, and they put it on hold temporarily. So then they're so then somebody came out with, well, we're gonna, try to make it put it in our constitution that, um, abortions can happen up until the baby's viable at, like, 24 or 26 weeks or something like that.
Right.
So then the heavily gerrymandered Congress of Ohio said, remember how we outlawed special elections? I think that we could slip this one under the rug and make it so this thing can't possibly pass.
Yeah.
And then they failed. And then here we are now where the abortion bill for, pro rights activists passes and everybody's real fucking salty about it. Like I can't tell you how weird it was, like, because you're looking for news on this to be like, I wanna see if that fucker Frank LaRose, I wanna see what he has to say on this, and nobody's saying anything for, like, 2 days, but it's like,
Yeah.
"Ah, shit, you guys are scheming something."
Uh-huh.
Like, you just knew right then and there, it's like, "Motherfuckers." So, with weed, uh Mike DeWine made a statement that that will be the way of Ohio, but that the law needs to have some changes to it, which,
Oh.
whatever, it's a step in the right direction. I mean, they're talking about taking the taxes that were supposed to go for like substance abuse to like substance abuse centers and stuff like that. And they're talking about
Mhm.
reallocating it to police offices and stuff like that. And I think they're going to make it so that way you can't smoke weed in public and that sort of thing, which whatever, like,
Yeah.
the point of it is that it's legal, you know what I mean? So,
Right.
as long as I can get it from point A to point B, which would be my home, I don't really care beyond that.
Yeah. I
So
mean, one of the things that is common with drug laws is we don't have any laws written to kind of enforce it. So we don't have laws right now. So like right now we have laws that, prevent anyone from doing drugs, but we don't have laws that are now written to kind of like in place for if it is legal. So companies right now will have laws that are like, okay, you have if you don't pass a drug test, you don't get this job. But now that marijuana is legal, they can't be like, you smoked marijuana, now you failed this drug test, so now you can't get this job, but smoking marijuana is legal, so there's something wrong with smoking marijuana. Now it's just a company saying you can't do this, which is now unconstitutional.
but the only reason that they can get away with that is because federally, it's still illegal. So, because
Right.
it's,
I
I
think
think
federally now it is decriminalized.
yeah, yeah, so it's, like, no big deal, it's no worse than walking down the street with a bottle of booze, you just get a fine, if anybody even cares. I mean, shit, I've seen people shooting up in downtown, like, and nobody seems to be doing anything about that, so, like,
I think what's
like
gonna happen eventually what's gonna happen is people that are in jail will eventually get released for marijuana charges because it's now illegal, and
depending on what they
uh,
were for, if they were selling it to
right.
a four-year-old, I doubt that that would,
Right.
you
In
know
this circumstance, it's basically like if you were caught with recreational amount of use of marijuana and you got sentenced to 30 years in prison for it, then you're probably going to get released and pardoned for it.
well, 30
And you'll
years would be kind of a high time for that crime, no pun intended, but
right. I I feel like I have read cases where people are getting life in prison for just a, being found with a recreational amount of marijuana.
oh,
But
yeah, I mean, usually those people, it's like not a second offense for that, but, like, they'll be on
yeah.
parole for something, you know and I mean, chances are I mean, if you were smoking a lot of weed and you crashed your car and killed some pregnant mother who was on her way to the abortion clinic, then, like, you probably deserve some time for that, like, I'm not
Yeah.
unreasonable about that, but and that's what
Right.
they kept trying to do this fear-mongering and wholesome act, which just it kept reminding me of, like, the Prohibition era where everybody just
Exactly.
wanted to be so puritanical in their belief system, right? And Mike
Mhm.
DeWine's there with his wife, and they're talking on the TV, and it's like, "You guys are fuckers."
It's
Oh my
kinda like,
god.
they've never met a pothead before.
I would much rather deal with a pothead than a drunk any day of the week.
Agreed.
A
But, like,
pothead will just, like, eat your pantry. A drunk, it depends.
he'll, like, go outside your porch and start peeing everywhere and wave it to your neighbors.
Hey, I did that once, okay? Actually, I did it twice, but the only once while you were here.
Um, but I do think that now that weed is becoming more universally looked at as something that should be legal, we do need to have laws in place for when it does become legal. So, like, you can't be driving and smoking weed, kind of just like you shouldn't be driving and drinking alcohol. But
R-
something like that, because I can
right.
see people being
Inebriated.
inebriated. Yeah.
That word.
Uh, yeah, that, and then like causing harm because then it's illegal. But like if you're
Yeah.
just going from point A to point B, just like the exact same way as when you're going from point A to point B with your alcohol, then you're
Right. Yeah.
good.
From the liquor store to home, and you're
Yeah.
not causing anybody harm. I mean, it's
We just need to
it's
rewrite
just
some laws.
yeah.
But
I mean, and that's just basic safety and courtesy sort of things. You
yeah,
know what I'm
it
saying?
kind of goes back to like our philosophy of laws of like a good law is to protect people around you. So
Right.
a law for marijuana would be protecting people in case you fuck up and use it in such a way that's going to harm people. Then it's bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like
Well, I'd agree.
abortions. You can't just go around, punching people in the stomach to give them abortions. That's just rude.
Well, I started a clinic that'll be open. My fittings guy thing isn't working out so well, so like I needed a way to make up some extra revenue on the side. I had to buy a lot of fittings because nobody needs
Right.
the same two twice. So jumping back into it, I just sent Aaron an article from ohiohouse.gov, which is the House of Representatives for the state of Ohio, with what they decided. I think the election was on November 7th. Um, this was
Yeah.
written on November 9th and released. Can you read that very top line for me, Aaron?
Yeah. Deceptive Ohio issue 1 misled the public but doesn't repeal our laws. Foreign billionaires do not get to make Ohio laws.
Yeah.
Republic newsroom.
Republican newsroom. Yeah.
Republican news. Yeah. So, one, it's kind
Isn't
of
there a
weird
lot
that.
wrong with this?
So yeah. So one, it it's written in such a way because it's a ohiohouse.gov. It kind of just one, it's just kind of making it so like Republicans don't have a voice or Democrats don't. It's saying that Democrats don't really have a voice anymore.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's
Well,
like
that's
that's
because Ohio decided to gerrymander everything so that
yeah.
way they were under Republican control, which
Right.
don't that's a different topic for a different day, but
So
it's leading to issues now and they're kind of getting pissed off that they're not in power no more and they're
yeah.
kicking the dog more or less.
So
But this just sounds like a slander article. Yeah, I figured we could go through this one by one real quick and have a good laugh if nothing else.
did we ever talk about the Ohio? Did we have an episode with the first Ohio issue with the special elections?
We might have. So I know we were talking about it, but I don't know if we actually recorded an episode on it.
I don't remember either. But basically, for a recap, Ohio did a special election to ban abortions, right?
Well, they did a special election so that nothing could be added to the Constitution
Right,
unless
right,
it
right.
had a 60% or higher,
Yeah. And
60% or higher
and
vote.
this was kind of like
But
in relation to making it so because abortions were already illegal in
it,
Ohio before that. So this was put in place to prevent any anti-abortions.
right. And they knew that there was going to be a constitutional amendment proposed that was
Right.
coming up. So that's why they had the special election was to make it
And
harder for that to pass.
yeah, and they made it so, and then the Ohio agreed that that was bad. So now they don't have that 60%.
Yeah.
And then this is another thing to kind of make it so it can happen again
Yeah. Well, and and it
with a real
passed.
election. Yeah.
Yeah, it passed. So like
Yeah.
we're good in that respect. But now they're like,
It's funny
"Oh, well,
because,
this
like,
was foreign election interference, this
yeah,
I won't stand for this." And it's like, it passed. It
right.
literally like you cannot do it passed. So you're either the popular vote, which foreign election interference, let's think about this for a minute.
Mhm.
Somebody from a different state told me that abortions were good, and I was like, "Oh, I never thought about it like that." Like everybody
Yeah.
has the right to make up their own fucking mind for starters. You know what
And
I'm saying?
also, it's kind of weird saying that the special election passed, which means it passed in such a way that the government doesn't need 60% votes. It still just needs majority.
Yeah, it and the way that they
It's
worded
also
that was just so
worded weird.
screwy.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is really worded really screwy to make it sound like it passed in such a way that the government needs 60% votes now, but it doesn't. It
it
passed in
does.
such a way that it needs 50% still, so they
Right,
don't need majority plus.
right. Yeah, and I don't know a whole lot about the wording personally, but, like, I know that that's an easy to manipulate thing, but
And
that was literally the only that was quite literally the only, um, thing we were voting on in the special election.
yeah, exactly.
So,
All right, so that
which
passed.
so then and then Frank LaRose got rid of voters, which had he done that during a national election, you're not allowed to do that 90 days before a national election, right? He
Right.
did it within like 35 or something like that, or the 35 or 40 days of Ohio's election. For some reason, that's legal. Usually you would
Mhm.
get rid of them in like January, February, March, somewhere in that range. And you would send them a letter saying, hey, you know, you've
Yeah.
been taken off the list because you haven't voted in a while.
Okay. So
So
now that we got that kind of like straightened out, I know this is kind of confusing because it's worded in such a way that it's supposed to be confusing to confuse people and voters.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
But I don't know why they do that because they're probably confusing their own people too.
Oh yeah, that for sure.
Yeah,
So
like,
now we got this deceptive Ohio issue one misled. I wonder how it got misled. Maybe because you worded it poorly. But anyway,
yeah.
foreign billionaires don't make Ohio laws, said Jennifer Gross, Republican Westchester, pointing to millions from billionaires outside America that helped fund issue one. And issue one was to make it so abortions were legal again.
Yes. Yeah. Basically to give somebody the right of choice. Yeah,
Right. So now Ohio now has a right of choice for up
right.
to 26 weeks.
Right. We're gonna like kill all the babies in that time
Which
too. So
yeah. So, and that was the law before
previously,
yeah, before Roe v. Wade
before the
was overturned.
yeah, before
Okay.
their heartbeat bill and all that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So now that things are a little bit more sh- not confusing for people listening to
I
it.
don't know. It's still gonna
So
be confusing. Yeah.
right. Yeah, so Ohio wrote laws saying that it is okay for people to have abortions up to 26 weeks. All right, that was a fact. And then Roe v. Wade was overturned, which made it so the Heart bill was in effect, so no more abortions. And now we have this thing
Uh-huh.
that says, nope, that's bad. Now we're going back to the original one before Roe v. Wade was.
Right.
So that's the timeline.
Yeah.
So now we're going to this thing because Ohio just passed a law saying we're going back to that thing. And now the people in charge are like, shit, foreign billionaires don't make laws.
Yeah, yeah. This foreign election interference. This is foreign election interference, and it
Yeah,
will not
it is.
stand.
Foreign election is basically anything outside of Ohio.
Right. They said from outside America, the
Oh, yeah,
people
they
had
did.
funded it. So, but I don't know anybody in Russia who's like, we must make sure that the baby population goes down. Yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
why he sounded German either, but because that'd be a
Ugh,
really weird dude.
it
So,
is.
and yeah.
Ohio's just weird right now. I hate it.
Well, right now we're largely, we're a swing state, but we've been so gerrymandered shit that you wouldn't think that. We've just turned red as a result of gerrymandering.
Right. So a lot of the in Columbus, Toledo, Cleveland, Akron, all the major cities are still
W-
Democrat.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say like, everybody in that city, but
No,
yeah,
but the
predominantly
majority
I'd say,
is.
yeah, I'd say like 55, 60% probably. But
Yeah.
you go out to the rural areas where like, I don't know. I mean, I grew up in those rural areas, so I
Yeah,
mean,
you did.
yeah, but I mean, that said, like sometimes the old ways are the best ways. So, but I
But in
don't
the
know.
old ways, it was before um, electoral college where everyone just had a vote and they just counted the votes for yay or nay.
Oh, I was
rather
thinking the
than
old ways were just like 5 years ago when the heartbeat bill wasn't in
oh.
effect. So,
Oh, I thought you were going way back when before we went to
no,
like
yeah,
electoral
no. The
college and
Well, I mean, the
state
electoral
lines and
college served its purpose at one point in time, but now it just works to discriminate against people. So,
yeah, because we've just been like there's just been so many things to mess with that. So like rewriting county lines to make sure that there are less people in that area to vote in such a way that it matters to you. Because
right,
everything's like
yeah,
because everything's county based now.
yeah. Well, I have no idea how it all works, but I don't pretend to know. But
I mean,
but
just think
this,
of like so every state has its own like electoral colleges and that's how they vote.
yeah,
But it also just also breaks down further
yeah,
and from like counties and cities and things like that. So that's
yeah. I know somehow we're districted, but I just don't know how. But I mean,
yeah,
it's fine to some degree. I mean, if anything, like the kids of those counties are growing up a little bit and they're starting to like be like, Maybe this isn't the way that we should be doing things." And I
yeah.
think that's a lot of what this is here.
It's kind
So,
of they're gonna be it's gonna be interesting when the people in woke environments now, quote unquote woke environments, are now at the age of voting rights.
yeah, I know, right?
It's it's weird.
It is all incredibly weird. And like the idea that we voted and like by a pretty good percentage, we were like, hey, I don't think that the government should be like stepping in and telling anybody what they can or can't do with their body. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like we voted for that. And it passed, but we're led by all these conservatives who are
Right.
like, well, we'll see what happens here. And then you get things like, well, issue one doesn't repeal a single Ohio law. In fact, it doesn't even mention one. It's like, well, no shit, because this is a constitutional amendment to the Ohio Constitution, which is higher than your heartbeat law was.
Right.
So it doesn't really need to be.
I wonder why there's the amendments language is dangerously vague. I wonder how that happened. You guys wrote
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, well, I shouldn't say we.
But
The
yeah.
people who were going to pass it, they wrote it initially, and they wanted to have it rewritten in such a way that, like, they wanted to use the words unborn child instead of fetus, right?
Right.
Which, whatever, I don't really care. That's fine. It's not really an unborn child, though, at a certain point. Like,
Right.
it's kind of
Exactly.
like,
It's a fetus.
right. And nobody's talking about like a week before you have the kid just being like, I should have an abortion. No, this
Right.
is like, this wasn't planned and I don't see how I can make this work. And, you know, you don't want to, I mean, throwing a kid up for adoption, that's rough, dude. Like, especially if like it was like a rape baby. Like, that's not, I can only imagine. But don't worry, Melanie Miller, she's going to keep continuing to be a voice for every child in their mother's womb who cannot speak for themselves.
Well,
So,
luckily we have Bill Dean also.
oh, yeah, yeah, I forgot about him.
Melanie Miller. He will continue to be a
Yeah,
voice for every child.
yeah.
Thanks.
So, and Beth Lear down there, no amendment can overturn the God given rights with which we were born. Well, you just said it right there, with which we were born. They're not born yet. So
Yeah.
therefore, like, come
Also,
on, man.
like,
Like, be smarter than that. Like, you're the ones who are saying dangerously vague. And then you're down here, God given rights with which we are born. Okay, so they're not born yet. So therefore, those God given rights don't exist at that point. Like, think about what the fuck you're saying. It is not that complicated. Ah,
apparently, the rights of people that were not born yet are more important than the ones that I've been having for, all my life.
yeah.
It's kind of weird. So, when people talk about rights,
Uh-huh.
it's just it's just weird because we have rights, but What rights are we actually born with?
You're born with the ability to breathe air as long as somebody permits it and doesn't put you in a river.
Right. We we we're born with the right to do whatever we want. We can do
Mm,
whatever we want.
as long as physics allows for it.
Yeah, there's literally nothing physically stopping me from, like, doing whatever I want. There's no
Well, I mean, if you wanted to fly, gravity is gonna be a real bitch, but,
right. Yeah,
your point is
exactly.
taken,
But
you know,
I can just
within reason.
I can do whatever I want. I mean, yeah, within physics, I can do whatever I want until
Right,
it gets to a point where someone's like, "No, you can't do that." Well, why? Because I don't like it. Okay, cool. Live your own life, dude. I can do whatever I want. If I want to punch you in the face, who's stopping me right now? I'm just gonna go punch
right,
you in the face. I might
right,
have to like deal with the consequences of punching you in the face. But if I punch you hard enough
right.
and there's no one
There's just
around, you can't do anything.
nana nana boo boo.
Yeah, you're getting knocked out, and then what? Now you're just
Yeah,
under the effects of all right, are my ethics going to allow me to just murder you and there's no one around? And I mean, it's only 33% of murders get solved every year in the US. So like there's a 66% chance that I'm just going to get away with just punching you as hard as I can, you falling down, and there's nothing you can do about it.
but there is 100% chance of you crying like a bitch, so
Yeah. So, all right. So what are your God-given rights? Because mine are I can do whatever the fuck I want. And
pretty much.
and yeah, I mean your God's not gonna tell me what to do. Because there's only one God. And everyone has different names for him, and everyone has different ideas of what he can and can't do. But there's one.
Z
If
Zeus.
under under the pretense of like let's say the big bang didn't happen and it was creationism or whatever, then there's one.
By
I
a
mean,
Judeo-Christ
yeah,
well, at least, yeah.
there's
It
a all-powerful being that created everything. Then like what? it, I kind of just went on a weird tangent, but like you see the point where like
this
there's no real rights. We just follow the laws of the land, which are ambiguous at best, and it's just to protect rich people. But like, I can do whatever I want. There's nothing preventing me
pretty
from
much.
punching people unless I'm afraid of going to jail. But
Right,
I could do it in
but,
such a way where I don't get caught.
yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah, and I'm not disagreeing with you there, like,
Yeah,
but to say that we like you were saying, to say that we have these God-given rights,
yeah,
I mean,
those aren't real.
your rights only exist up to where somebody else allows them to, which is kinda what
Exactly.
you're getting at. So, if nobody's enforcing them, if nobody's stopping them, then and I mean, I'm certainly not suggesting violence in
No,
most cases,
unless
but
someone's
I'm not
being a
gonna
dick and they need punched in the
well,
face. Sometimes people just need punched in the face because they think that they're what entitled to tell me what to do. And at that point, they're just like, you know what? I can disprove this right now by just punching you straight in the face, and then you'll be like,
yeah,
"Ah." Like,
Aaron, violent today.
uh, I just get annoyed by, like, people thinking that their rights are better than my rights, but, like, we all follow an ethical, moral code internally, which prevents
Right,
me from punching people in the face, but it doesn't prevent me from calling you an idiot because you think that you have God-given rights. Alright,
and it
let's
and
let's
it
talk about
certainly
God.
doesn't
I mean, like, I don't know, just annoying.
well, yeah, no, I totally get it. Like, most people, the way that they act well, at least in my experience, I mean, I didn't go to church as a kid or anything like that. I tried it out as an adult, but I have found that most people, when it comes to any sort of, like, behavior,
Yeah,
that isn't fitting of their God's code of conduct, they will find a way to rationalize it. A big example of that was growing up, God doesn't necessarily want you to have sex until you're married, but how many, like, 16-year-old girls got knocked up in high school who, followed that code? And that's fine, that happens, you know? At least they had, like, options for reproductive care and, all that sort of thing. I mean,
right.
and I none of them ever had an abortion as far as I knew. Not all of them were Republicans either. They just, didn't agree with it personally. I'm sure you see my point there.
Yeah.
It it's they make exceptions for themselves when you know what I mean,
Mhm. And
when it matters.
there was a fun thought experiment that you would ask someone, what would you do if you found out that there's no God? So if you actually ask someone like, all right, if you found out there is no God, what would you do? They'd be like, oh, well, then I can go drink and have sex and do that. I mean, that's what people would say. And they said, oh, you wouldn't just go around murdering people? And they said, no. And then to be like, so what makes you think people that don't believe that would do the exact same thing? That's kind of like the argument of people's ethics and how they have more their own moral ethics and they're just not going to go around murdering people
Sure.
because a god is telling them not to.
Yeah. Well, it took me a really long time from when I was younger up until, probably 4 years ago or something like that, to realize that maybe and I'm certain I'm agnostic forever. I mean, I know you know that, but anybody listening might not. But, um, it took me a really long time to realize that there was a big difference between the teachings of the actual Bible, which
Mhm.
I've read most of the way through, which is more than I can say of a lot of these people I grew up with.
Right.
But there's a big difference between the teachings in there, the people who are going around toting that, "Oh, well, I'm a devout man of faith," and then they fuck up, you know, pretty much everything that the Bible says. They see a
Right.
homeless guy there and they're like, "Go get a job." And it's like, well, in the Bible, Jesus, like, you know, he did a lot of cool shit with homeless people. So, like, and you're over there, like, just without any empathy whatsoever. If there is a God,
Mhm.
he's going to be very disappointed at the people who are in his flock.
You're right.
So, I mean,
I
not
mean,
not necessarily in his flock. It'd be like being a rock star and you have a groupie who's like, "Oh, I know him. I'm with him," and that guy's like, "That bitch is crazy. Keep him away from me."
yeah.
So, it's kind of the same corollary.
I've
So,
always
but
thought that Jesus was a grifter and it was just a really good grift. And
got this
he's like,
cool trick where I put a sack of wine up my sleeve.
right? Yeah. I
Yeah,
think that's always been like my the back of my head of like what Jesus was and who he was as a person. It was just a good grifter. But I've also I know that there's a lot of good stuff in the Bible though, and if someone needs guidance with the Bible to have to see to justify moral actions, then I guess that's just what they need. I mean,
I mean,
I don't
that's how
know.
most of these guys use them. They use it to make themselves feel better as opposed to using it to make themselves better, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
So,
And the idea of just like accepting your sins and doing a confrontational and being forgiven. I mean, that just seems like a cop out, but whatever. I also don't think that a moral God would send anyone to hell just because he's a moral God anyway.
yeah, I wouldn't know. But the cop out thing, I honestly, just going back to it, most of the Bible just talks about empathy more than
Right.
anything. And I feel like that's a good lesson for a lot of people to learn. But a lot of people seem incapable of learning that while spouting off that their God is high and mighty and will protect them.
Right.
So it's just, it's a double-edged sword. You have to act within a way that, I don't know, your own moral conduct that you know, decipher from your teachings, I guess. So,
You're right. And you can't really I know people love to tell other people how to live their ethical life, but in the
no,
end, nothing really
you mean
matters.
you mean like the Republican Congress in Ohio?
Yeah, kinda.
No. Well, so what they have in what they have in store, by the way, um, for now, and it's still up kinda up in the air, right? But they're how do I wanna put it? So, the issue will take effect in December, right?
Mhm.
But it can't be implemented until courts apply the new constitution standard to, like, these abortion-related lawsuits that are currently, that are challenging that current ban that they have,
Yeah.
right? So, their plan right now is to just, block the courts from implementing the law by taking away their judiciary rights to implement the law.
Huh.
That's their big plan right now. Basically, to write a law to take away the rights of the Judiciary Committee to pass new laws.
Seems fine.
I mean, honestly, that one's probably just a stall more than anything because they can't do that forever. Yeah, but it buys them time.
For what?
It
To have another special election?
to come up with another plan, basically. Their
Yeah.
their bigger plan was to change definitions
Right.
on, the law to basically make viability, like, 2 weeks or something like that or
I
whatever
guess,
their
like, my whole question is, like, what's their end goal?
Right, why
Like,
is this important to
yeah,
you?
why is
I
this
mean
the hell that you're gonna die? I mean, I understand that it is a very common hill for people to die on.
right. Well, and a lot of people, they don't necessarily view viability by the science out there, right? They
Right.
view viability more by, like, you know, by does it happen immediately at conception?
Right.
And, I mean,
But I also just don't think that they I don't think they actually care about whether or not you have an abortion.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't I
So
think that they have this idea that they think people want them to care, and if they don't do what they want them what the majority of the people that they get votes from, if they don't think that they're gonna do this thing, they're not gonna get votes, so they're not gonna get reelected. Honestly, I think this is just a big money thing, honestly, because they have to appease their voters. And if they don't appease their voters with the abortion thing, they're not gonna get reelected, and then they're not gonna be able to corrupt and get money.
all I gotta say is that the weed thing, like, they're like, "We have problems with this, but we have bigger problems with this, so we're gonna get back to this," right? Like, that's just kinda getting swept under the rug right now, and they're not really gonna touch it because they got bigger fish to fry, and I'm kind of okay with that, like,
Yeah, what's
you know what I mean?
their big fish right now is, like, frying babies.
Yeah. Well, like, and the thing is, like, all the news articles that I'm reading right now,
Mhm.
it's that, "Oh, abortion's gonna be a big deal in the next presidential election," and it's like, "Well, maybe, but, like, Biden sucks, Trump sucks, so, like,
It's not like
it's a turd sandwich.
yeah,
Regardless of which one you choose, it's a turd sandwich."
it's not like anyone I mean, we're just gonna go back to the thing before, it's like no one's, like, pro-abortion. You're either
Yeah,
pro-choice or not pro-choice. You either don't want
right.
people to make
You
their own choices and you want them to force them into ways that you think is best, or you accept that people can make their own choices.
right.
That's it.
And nobody's out there and they're like, "Okay, well, I think abortions can actually happen up to 2 weeks after the baby's born." So,
Yeah.
like, nobody out there is like that. Like,
Yeah.
we're talking about, like, I mean, having a kid is a huge thing. Like, would I personally have an abortion? I mean, no, but that's not my right. I'm not arguing for somebody to have an abortion. I'm arguing for them to be able to have that choice because some people are in some real shit circumstances that, like, you know, they're
Right.
with a boyfriend and, like, they they're pregnant with their boyfriend's kid, but, like, it's an abusive relationship, and it's like,
That kid's gonna get
they're
fucked up. Maybe you should question your choices.
well, yeah, I mean, and honestly, there are that's not really the best example, but like a 16-year-old girl who's got her whole life ahead of her,
Yeah.
like it's gonna fuck her up to have that kid out there in the world knowing that she can't provide for it. It's
But
also gonna fuck her up to have
their
an abortion.
their argument is you just gotta pull yourself by your bootstraps and just make it work.
I mean, I pull
Just
myself up by my bootstraps
you
and
just
I
gotta
make it
use your
work.
nannies, and then you'll be fine,
Yeah.
you
But a
know?
lot of people out there aren't having abortions. Like,
It's
it's
true.
not a matter of like, it's just a matter of having the choice there.
I mean, I know a lot of
That's
people that
really
are
what it is.
pro-choice that aren't having abortions. They're just like, "You know what?"
Right.
I mean, it's just some people don't get a choice, though. Some people would just get raped by their deadbeat uncle, and then they're like, "Well, I didn't get this choice. Why do
I
I have
fucking
to"
like,
I
I
also
think
don't
she
get
was
the
like,
choice of not
I think
having
she
an
was
abortion.
less than 12 years old. Poor
I
kid.
I read it in I heard someone say, "Your body's ready at 12. If you can get pregnant, your body is ready to do it, and you can and it's gonna be hard, but you can do this 12-year-old."
Oh, fucking Christ. People need more medication. Like, fucking hell.
But, like, this is it's funny that if this is the hill that you have to die on, you have to accept that rape and incest is okay.
I keep getting told by somebody, right? I won't mention who or anything like that, but that the heartbeat law that's in
Mhm.
effect, right? Um, I keep getting told that rape and incest are not, well, they are excluded in the heartbeat bill.
Yeah.
So I went and I looked at the actual law signed, and then I looked at a bunch of other things. He is dead wrong. And I've been told this by more than one person, by the way. So I don't, it's like somebody told him, oh, yeah, yeah, we're getting to that part. We're getting to that part, but nobody's actually done it. Right. And it
Mhm.
just wasn't a big deal for them. And they just, but I just don't get where some people get their information from. It's like looking at fittings
Facebook.
online and, well, yeah, Facebook, yeah. But it's like looking at fittings online where people are doing all sorts of bad shit to fittings, cross-threading the fuck out of them from what I can see. And it's like, why? Like, I mean, yeah, it probably is largely Facebook.
Yeah,
Facebook and InfoWars, I mean, any extremist sort of
yeah.
sect. It's just,
Well, luckily, InfoWars got sued for billions of dollars, so I don't think Alex Jones is gonna do much else.
yeah.
A judge said that you can't declare bankruptcy to get away from paying the billions of dollars. So,
Ooh, did he?
yeah,
I like that. I mean,
yeah,
Alex Jones is a piece of shit. So,
right.
like,
Yeah, I love when people actually get like their their due diligence. I wish more courts were like that. I mean, judges should be like that. Judges should be like, "Nah, dude, you fucked up. You have to pay it." But then there's some judges that get, paid millions of dollars in free jets and um,
oh dear
free
God.
gifts, and
And then there's other judges that, like, don't have the case put in front of them, so they can't pass an abortion law. So,
it's fine. The whole idea of judges and then paying off judges is just so good.
well, and I just really hope that, and I know a lot of people in Ohio are taking note, but I just really hope that people are seeing what's actually coming to fruition. The whole point of a government is to basically make living together as easy as possible
Mhm.
and to lay down a set of rules that are pretty commonplace that, hey, you know, can't do this, little buddy. Like murdering somebody's wrong, right?
Yeah.
Or, hey, little buddy, doing heroin in a back alley with your Uncle Joe, who's not actually your uncle, is probably wrong. Like they're meant there to kind of guide that moral behavior, right?
Exactly.
But
Just like the
we
Bible.
put these, yeah, but we put these legislators in charge. We vote for these legislators to help implement these things and to listen to us, the voters, to accomplish somewhat a common agenda. But right now, they're all like, no, this is too much. Even though the popular vote is saying yes by a pretty good margin
It was
at
like
that.
56 or something like that,
Fif- 50,
56%.
yeah, like rounding 56 and a half is what I've seen recently. I think it was technically 56.7 or
Yeah.
something like that. But we'll just say 56 and a half. But we elected these officials. Well, I shouldn't say we elected these officials. These officials were gerrymandered into place for us to serve us.
We got
And
to
they're all just,
choose well, you guys got
yeah,
to choose between 2 bad choices, and there you go.
yeah, yeah. Well, and then like on top of that, right? Like, so we got to choose between two bad choices, but it was already going to be a Republican, and they're all just middle-aged white men, by the
Yeah.
way. Like, they all just look like douchebags. Like, you look at their pictures, and you're just like, man, you have a very punchable face. My friend Aaron over there is very violent today, and he lives in Wisconsin, so you can't touch him. That's state law. If he can get out of state bounds, remember that, fuckers. Thug life.
I
Yeah.
wish more people murdered bad people.
More Batman. Well, Batman
Yeah.
didn't murder.
No, he doesn't murder, but, like well, unless you're, alternate universe Batman that uses guns.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's, there's the alternate universe where, instead of Bruce Wayne's parents dying, um,
Yeah.
Bruce died, and,
Oh.
um, then Bruce's father became a vigilante, basically became the Batman that uses guns and shoot people, and, the mother became Harley Quinn.
Huh.
It's
Well, that's
really
weird.
cool.
It
Yeah,
would have.
it's, Flashpoint. It's really cool. And also, Aquaman had an affair with, the Amazon queen, and they found out, and, like, the Amazon queen someone got their head cut off, and then the Amazons and the, Aquaman's people, they had, like, a giant war, and it was crazy. Superman was, caught instead of, like, Superman getting onto a, like, landing into a farm, he landed into, like, a government restricted area, and then they basically experimented on him for years, and then eventually got caught out, let out, and murdered a bunch of people. But yeah,
Huh.
it's a cool storyline. Recommend it. It's called
Yeah. That.
Flashpoint.
Yeah. I might. I mean, I don't read a whole lot of comic books, but it sounds interesting
It's a
enough.
movie.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's a
Huh.
DC animated movie.
Huh.
DC only makes
Well,
good
I could use
animated
it.
movies.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give you that.
Yeah,
So, I don't know. The Batman trilogy, Dark Knight trilogy, that wasn't bad.
yeah. Oh, true. I mean, they can make good Batman movies because they want to make everything so dark for whatever reason. Shazam was
I actually really like. I really
weird,
like
but
the dark take on things. I didn't see Shazam. That
I,
one
s-
I kind of.
I saw both of them. The second one was awful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they had this really cool idea with unicorns, though, because basically in the second Shazam movie, like shenanigans happened, and then like a bunch of mythical creatures came out, and like
Hmm.
the unicorns in that universe are really dark and evil. So instead of like rainbows and everything, they eat rainbows and happiness, and they let just like murder people and things.
Oh, so they're like murder hobos.
Yeah, and they're like the most feared mythical creature. Like every other mythical creature is just like terrified of unicorns because they're just like murderous
Huh.
horses.
Homicidal,
They're
speary things.
they're cool though. I do like the evil unicorn.
No. Hmm.
Yeah.
I wish that the Ohio House of Representatives 135th General Assembly got to meet one of those unicorns. Right now,
They're just trying to prevent mischief by pro-abortion courts. Pro-abortion courts. There's no such thing as a pro-abortion court.
I mean, I want to make a pro-abortion group where we just murder a bunch of
Yeah.
like
I
babies 20 weeks in.
I joke about being pro-abortion and everyone should have at least one in their life, but, like, there's just there's no such thing as someone being pro-abortion, they're just, like,
Right.
pro-baby killing. That's just not a
Yeah.
thing. You're
Really
like
hate those fucking toddlers.
I
Best
mean
way to kill a toddler is to kill him as a baby. If you could go back in time and kill Hitler as a baby, a lot of shit would be solved. Now that's why
right?
I'm pro.
That's that's why you're
Uh,
pro-baby killing is because of Hitler.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I don't know, uh, I don't know where this idea of pro-abortion came from, but, like,
I don't know.
I no one is pro-abortion. Everyone's pro-choice or pro-life, and a lot of
Right.
pro-lifes are a lot of people that are pro-choice are pro-abortion, but or pro-life, I don't know. People that are
Yeah.
pro-choice are not killing babies. It's just not a
No,
thing.
not
The
really.
only people that are
So,
killing babies are Republicans with handguns. Yeah, I went there.
no, I just don't understand the reference.
Oh, with, Republicans, like, people that are right wing buying handguns and shooting up, um, elementary schools. There's a thing
I
like
have
that.
not I don't
Yeah,
I don't I have no clue what you're talking about.
yeah. There was the elementary shooting a couple of years ago where, like, a bunch of 4 and
I thought that was
5-year-olds.
an assault weapon. I thought that was an assault weapon, though.
I don't remember. It might not have been handguns. It might have just been an
'Cause
assault weapon, but
wasn't that in Texas?
oh, I forget. I don't know much about it. I just know that it happened, and people that are pro guns are shooting up the schools. So,
I don't know. I'm pro gun. I like guns. So, I
and you're
mean,
not shooting up schools,
no,
but maybe
I'm
because you're
not.
mentally healthy enough to not shoot up a school. That's the bar.
Yeah, well, that's because I smoke enough weed. So, like,
Honestly, we might have a lot less school shootings when people can just smoke a lot of weed.
yeah, I mean, it treats a lot of things.
Yeah,
So
we'll get
it at
more
least makes you
accidental
chill out.
suicides.
Yeah, I mean, it's not for everybody, but I like weed. So I don't know.
I've never been high, so
Yeah,
yeah. I've never been high or drunk, but I still think, we should have the right to get high and drunk whenever we want, as long as it's not affecting anyone else.
right.
I'm also pro
Agreed.
guns. I mean, like, as long as you're a good gun owner, have at it, man.
Yeah,
But I'm a good liberal. I'm not like one of
yeah.
those propaganda liberals that the right wing and Fox News is about to go against. You know, those are different liberals. We should do an episode where we just like actually talk about the different definitions of people.
Mhm.
Because man, propaganda ruins everything.
A little bit.
Definitely gives liberals a bad name,
Yeah, kinda gives everybody a bad name.
unless you're a Republican.
I don't know. I mean, if you're a Republican and then, like, you realize people really don't like what you're thinking, then apparently you can just, say, "We know you passed the law, but no."
Yeah, yeah.
So, you're
There's a
still in
difference.
control because you know what's better for your people than your people do.
Yeah.
That's what Machiavelli was all about.
Honestly, I think Republicans gives Republicans a bad name. I've met a lot of nice Republicans that are not idiots, but man, I think propaganda just ruins everything for everyone.
Pretty
Maybe we
much.
should just
Well,
blow up satellites
it's
so
like
there's no more news.
I think that would probably be wise. We have a lot more in common generally, right, than we do not in common.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
right.
Like, it's just a matter of, like, I don't know, people get so wrapped up in these certain ideas and think that they need to pick a side,
Yeah,
but you don't really need to pick a side.
you don't.
Like
You don't at all. Oh,
like, you
it's so
can just be a
annoying.
passive bystander who just listens and is like, "I'm for that. No, I'm not for that." Because back in caveman times when you had your tribe, you didn't have Republicans on one side of the aisle and Democrats on the other. You know what I'm
No.
saying?
Yeah,
You had, here are the bigger threats, here are not the bigger threats. And
yeah.
abortion is not a big threat to your tribe.
No, it's actually inhibiting your tribe. There's like an 88% chance that the woman's gonna die in the caveman times from giving birth. So
Yeah, that's a good point.
yeah.
The only way you're doubling your tribe is, twins.
But but if you're having too much sex and your tribe has too many mouths to feed, then you gotta kill some people.
I saw The Walking Dead. I know all about that.
Yeah. And if they're
Did anybody
deformed,
have a baby? Oh, yeah,
you
Rick
gotta
had a
kill them
baby in Walking Dead. Yeah,
because
yeah.
like,
Well,
they have to be a productive member of society, and if they have any kind of, defect, they just get murdered because,
that's the way of the road.
that's Darwinism for you.
Oh,
Survival of the fittest. And then science came around, and they're like, "No, idiots can still be fine."
yeah, I don't know.
Science just ruined Darwinism,
Yeah.
letting people live forever and live. Letting people live. It's just the worst.
Well, I mean, I will say that at a certain point, like, if you're 80 years old and you have a bunch of dementia, right? I'm not saying that, like, you need to go south or anything like that, but
Then we just need, like, a
at a certain
farm.
point, well, no, I mean, it's just Kevorkianism. I wouldn't wanna live like that. Even if
Yeah,
my kids are like, "Oh, I want you to be alive forever," and I'm in that demented Alzheimer-y state. No,
yeah.
fucking take me out back, do what they did to old Bessie and shoot me out there.
Just we'll just have a special farm for all the dementia people, and they can just forget where they are, and then just, like, talk about the good old times, and eventually they die. Just, they don't
Yeah.
know. They don't know
You
where they
just
are
put us
anymore.
out there, there's a fenced-in area, and then we just eat the grass to live. Moo. Uh, well, I think that's all the time that we have for this week's episode.
Yep, we just, we're just all for instead of it just went to a weird circle. We're just like, "You know what? Saving babies is good, but man, killing old people with dementia, gotta gotta get rid of them. Gotta get rid of them."
Well, I'm not saying that, like, somebody wants to be in that demented
Yeah,
Alzheimer's state, that's fine. I'm just saying, like, if somebody wants to like, in my instance, I'd want it put in my
yeah,
not will, but what would it be called? There's a special name for the document.
yeah. I mean, it's really sad when people do get dementia because, like, man, they just forget everything, and
Oh, yeah.
it's just a sad way to go, but,
Yeah. So it's the DNR, by the way, DNR.
DNR?
But it should be like that. Like once you can no longer cognitively function to a certain point and you can state your level, then, like
Yeah.
it's left up to next of kin or something
I
like that.
mean,
I don't know. I'm just saying I'd Kevorkian myself.
they do have that where if you do have dementia or Alzheimer's? I always wanna call it old timers because, like, you just have that old timers. But, I mean, if you're not capable of doing it, I mean, it's next to kin, but
Well, yeah, but
so
it's not going to be like them taking you out back and old yellering you. It's more like you go into the nursing home.
yeah, or, you have, like, in-house nurses, and they kind of just steal all your
Yeah.
stuff, while you wilt away, watching all your stuff
I
get
mean,
stolen, but
honestly, it's a little bit easier that way when you think about it, because otherwise your family's gotta move boxes upon boxes of your uncle's shit some afternoon in the
right.
fucking winter.
And if you have that creepy
So,
uncle, all that child porn is just you're
ugh,
gonna find it.
ugh, well, that went dark.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Ryan.
And I'm Aaron. Check us out on Spotify and patreon.com//Ethica America. And you can find us on Apple and Google Chrome and where we found this. And tune in
Yeah, and,
next time.
eventually we'll have a website. Eventually.
And maybe one day we'll have social media.
Oh, fingers crossed. Those are the big boy days, but social media probably won't be until after Christmas.
Yeah.
Ugh. Either way,
All right.
keep it classy, San Diego.
Yeah. And maybe just punch a rich guy in the face.
If there's one moral to take from this episode, yes, that is it.
Yeah, just do it in such a way you don't get caught. All right, bye.